The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Your chance to have your say about what's on your mind. We're open line until 1 today. If you'd like to follow up on anything you heard on Friday when Tim Johnston, MHK, Minister at the Department for Enterprise, was here, and his Chief Officer, Mark Lewin. By all means, get in touch. We got lots and lots of feedback on that, and I'll get to some of the messages and anything else really that's on your mind. The commissioners in the south are saying that scrapping that Craignish bus route is madness. Their words, madness. Arbury and Russian commissioners described the decision to scrap the bus service for financial reasons madness. Any thoughts on that? That story doesn't seem to go away. But then again, really, Craignish is always going to stay where it is as our iconic folk village. And nobody can get there by bus because there won't be one. David's first with us now. Hi, David.
Listen, I'll have to confess I didn't listen to the Mannin Line because I took a group of people out to Castletown. And when we were going down there, I said to them, I always like to drop in at several places, was the airport. And I thought to myself, let's have a little skeet, a Manx skeet, because we were early to the venue we were actually going to. And can I say, I'm not having total criticism of it, but if we have a plan for something like the airport, the sea terminal, or whatever, the roads and whatever, we need to put the plan together. And what can we do? People talk about low-hanging fruit. Well, here's some of it. The place is definitely untidy when you look at it, and we live here. So the bushes are not cut. The front of house looks miserable. We went round the back for a skeet because in the old days, in a previous occupation anyway, I knew where all the nooks and crannies were. And I thought to myself, where are all these new hangars that's supposed to be built over the number of years? You go round the back on the left-hand side after the roundabout, if you go round the back, and does the medical plane still have its own hangar? And what are we doing about selling the place? What I mean is, if people want to bring their aircraft to the Isle of Man, and I remember Lewis Hamilton, he didn't come, but his agent did. Do you remember we had the plane registered here?
That red one of his, yeah.
Yeah, and what PR that was for, and it was legit. It was done within the rules, and it was like one of those things where we say, we can do, the Isle of Man is where we can do things. And I looked around the back and I thought to myself, what's happening with these aircraft hangars? There's a private jet hangar place over on the right-hand side, which is good. And how do we encourage people to invest in the Isle of Man when we know we've got space, if they want to build a hangar, rent a hangar, bring their helicopters here, whatever they want to do? We should be doing this, and then we should move on to the boat.
It's interesting, as you say, that, and we know that obviously Gary Cobb is on his way out. He's leaving. Yeah. The Department of Infrastructure are responsible for some stuff. Other people are responsible for other stuff. But it would be nice to know what's going to happen. And also, I've heard that one of the, as you go up into departures, the executive lounge, there's like an executive lounge for people who pay a fee. Apparently, that's not all it used to be, and nobody seems to be responsible for that. And also one of the favourite subjects is the state of the bus stops outside.
Terrible. Well, I don't. Some of them probably used for smoking shelters as well. But my thing about bus stops. And towards the end of the week, I haven't got the permission for the email yet, but I've sent you a great photograph which says the one in Onken on Governor's Road there to be concluded, and I'm waiting for the conclusion. But I just wondered out there, why can't we do, and the Mannin's good for it, to tell you the truth. You meet people all the time. I met a lady this morning from Oldham, come over to visit the Isle of Man. Never mind the hundreds and cars, not antique cars, classic cars that were here. What a sight to be taken over by a TR7.
Yeah, fantastic.
See you, lad.
Thanks for calling today. 11 minutes past 12. Did you spot those cars at the weekend? It was the Festival of Motoring, and the weather was fantastic for it. They were all over the Isle of Man. In Ramsey, they were all around Fenella. It was a fantastic. I saw some great aerial shots of them all around Fenella, and also at the back of the grandstand as well. But, I mean, the airport is something that is a vexed question, and you kind of get the impression sometimes when people in authority talk about the airport, they think we don't remember when it was clean and tidy and well painted, and when the bushes didn't, scratch you every time you walk by them. The airport used to be lovely, didn't it? It used to be well painted, it used to be very tidy, and it was a pleasure to go to. Of course, we had the privilege then of having a bit of free parking for an hour or half an hour. Now, apparently, well, obviously this app that we contribute to now, we don't know how much we're earning from that, if we're earning anything from it. So I just wonder what your thoughts are regarding this. We all remember when the Isle of Man used to look a lot better. Also, when it used to be a bit more Manx. Now, much has been made of the fact over the past few years we've lost bits of Manxness from the Isle of Man. We've lost Shoprite, we lost Ramsey Bakery, and obviously the Laxey Glen Mills will have suffered because of that. Consequently, we've lost milling wheat that's been planted. Isle of Man Bank is disappearing down to, well, how many branches there will be in the end, nobody quite knows. Actually, talking of Shoprite, today it's our 60th anniversary. I don't know whether we mentioned it this year, but we started in 1964. And every Monday and Friday, we look back into the archive. Today, Deryck Nicholson. Wow. What a name, what a character, what a businessman. We're going to listen to an archive interview with Shoprite chairman Deryck Nicholson talking about proposals for the Lord Street site in Douglas. And that's Deryck Nicholson today after Mannin Line on Manx Radio. I mentioned also last week, and we're still looking for these confirmed sightings of the yellow-legged hornet, the Asian Hornet. Asian Hornets are now in the UK. 26 nests have been destroyed in the UK. Now, the Asian Hornet has got the capability of flying 62 miles, so it's only a matter of time before they come here, because the closest point, UK Isle of Man, is 16 miles to the coast of Scotland, the Mull of Galloway. As to what they look like on the internet, I'm at a loss, says Big John, as to why DEFRA hasn't put information pictures to warn people and to help detect. These Asian Hornets are very aggressive, and they have the capability, and this is the most important thing, they could destroy Manx bees. Now, our bees are aristocrats, absolute aristocrats. And we export bees. I don't know whether you know, but our bees don't have the varroa mite, and our honey is fantastic, and our bees are aristocrats. So if the Asian hornet, the yellow-legged hornet, gets a hold on the Isle of Man, we could be in real trouble. Because you know the situation with bees. No bees, no food. No plants, no us. Never mind global warming, never mind climate change. If the bees go, we go. That's the end of it. Here's Dewan now. Hi, Dewan.
Hey, talking of aristocrats, how are you today, Andy?
Oh, please.
Did you see the car show at the weekend?
I saw some of it, yes. They were fantastic. I went to the grandstand to take a look.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely. I actually seen one that was nearly as old as you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was a crank start in the morning as well.
Oh, well, there we are. We all have to start somewhere.
Isle of Man Bank. I just wanted to touch on that one this morning.
Yeah.
They've got a lovely sign in there, all the signage for the Isle of Man Bank. Welcome to the bank, and a bank occupies a special place in the life of the island.
Is this the one in Athol Street?
Yes, the one where everyone's standing around with iPads. The staff are part of our community, and in turn, the bank regards the customers as part of our family. And then I was in there to to do some exchanges, but I had a nice letter from the NatWest group last week saying, we're terminating your accounts with us. And that's basically it. That's as far as you get with these people. So I'm wondering where that connection is there with that little sign that they had up, being part of our lives. And I've been banking with the Isle of Man Bank for 40-odd years. And I find it abysmal that a company cannot give a reason for closing down a banking system. And the T's and C's of the company says that they don't have to give you any answers. You don't have to give them any answers. That's the T's and C's. And we're controlled by Jersey. But my thing is here, I mean, I'm not stupid enough to rely on one bank. But if there's people on this island, especially older people, who get a termination letter through for their account from the Isle of Man Bank, how distraught would people be if that happened?
Well, you take it personally, don't you?
You would take it personally, and I think it's very, very bad management and bad practice not to be able to discuss the reason why with the client. And I think if the Isle of Man Bank is under an Isle of Man banking licence still, I think the government here should take some action in case this happens to vulnerable people on this island, and they just close it down, because they will not discuss it with you. They will not discuss the reason with you or anything. And when I go on to NatWest, I start exploring it, as I do with these things. I mean, there's a massive website on social media of people who have had the same thing happen to them from the NatWest RBS group. So this is quite commonplace at the moment. I mean, you go through their press 1, press 2 phone system, and the press 1 is if you've had your bank details disconnected. So it's obviously a thing that they're doing a lot of. But I think the government, maybe because they're using an Isle of Man bank licence, should put some security in there.
Now, the one with you, is this for an Isle of Man bank? Is it NatWest or is it Royal Bank of Scotland?
Isle of Man Bank. Right. And that's my point here, Andy. And I know they're all owned now by the Royal Bank of Scotland group, but the Isle of Man Bank is still a banking licence which they took. And
iconically, Isle of Man Bank is company 001. It's number one. It's the first company.
Yeah, another little bit of Manxness gone maybe there, Andy. But it was just my point. And like I said, I cover my back anyway. I don't trust any banks anymore in this day and age. But my point would be, this is an Isle of Man company. And if the Isle of Man government are here for the people and looking after the people, I think the question should be asked to the bank that they should be able to correspond with the client and give them an answer.
Well, you wonder, we had this a few weeks ago when people had said that they'd had these termination notices from the, and I can't remember what the conclusion was, whether they said they were going to do more about it. But the fact is, it might be nice just to have a Manx telephone number. If one of those people milling around in Athol Street with iPads, as you say, would sit at a desk with a phone and answer telephone calls from the Isle of Man, from Manx people who bank with Isle of Man Bank or its subsidiaries, then that might be nice. That may be making us feel a bit more worthwhile, rather than somebody saying your call is important to us.
Yes, and I mean, I've sat down with the manager there, because to get through the front of line staff, to get through the military, and to get to the commanders, I managed to get through there, and they basically said that they don't know. They can't tell you. It's not on the screen. It comes from Jersey. They have no control over it. I goes on to Jersey. I speaks to them in Jersey. They won't release any information. They won't discuss it. It's sine die. So now I'm on to the Ombudsman, because I won't let it rest. So I'm on to the Ombudsman. But this would be confusing for an older person who maybe has banked with the Isle of Man Bank for many years, and they've done something that it just, seamlessly, that they innocently. So
they've told you they're going to close your account, and they won't tell you why.
That's exactly it, yeah. That's it, sine die, accounts closed, please move and do not bank with any of our NatWest, RBS, or Isle of Man Bank. So I've been Nigel Faraged.
Can you, have you got any idea what it is? Any idea? What could it possibly be?
I don't know, Andy, and this is the frustrating thing, is I think in all fairness to people, they should be able to discuss it with the client. You give them your security details, they should be able to discuss it with the client and ask the question and clarify it. It might just be a purely innocent thing. But
well, I mean, the question should be, on behalf of the customer, you should be able to say, what will it take for me to stop this? What do you need to know from me that will put your mind at rest? And obviously they'll quote all sorts of anti-money laundering and money val and this, that and the other. They'll quote all sorts of regulations, and a lot of them are imposed from America as well. So, and we don't know, and it may be something entirely innocent.
Absolutely, and I just think it's very bad business practice that they can hide under their terms and conditions like that. And if you're a traveller, if you're a person like me who travels a lot, and anyone who goes away on cruises or holidays, and maybe makes a purchase in a foreign country, they could accept that as some kind of thing that they don't like, and it could be purely innocent. And we have a lot of people here that travel a lot. There's a lot of retired people who travel and move around. So I think it's something that really the government someone should pick up on this and ask the question. Under an Isle of Man banking licence, they should be able to give a reason and discuss it with the customer.
Okay, all right, thanks, Stuart.
Take care, Andy.
All right, good to hear from you. 23 minutes past 12. Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just listening to you in there, I had a very similar problem, but it was 50 years ago, and I changed from the Isle of Man Bank to Barclays, and I've never looked back. Barclays, if you remember a little while ago, I mentioned about the debit cards, and they sent new ones out to all their clients. And the reason for that was, I found out afterwards, because mine was still in time. There was no factor in it that was saying it was going to be deleted or nothing. But the fact that they changed the number on the back of your debit card to a local number. So you could, if you're away anywhere, ring up this number and you would get directly through to Barclays Isle of Man, as opposed to going through the channels. And that's on the back of the debit card. It has been on for quite a number of years. Because we're offshore, which we understand that. But this number gives you a local number, an Isle of Man number, and that way you're in direct contact with the Isle of Man, with the Barclays Bank here on the island.
Yeah.
But what I was coming on for, and I said to Chris, all the doom and gloom, and I'm as bad bringing these doom and gloom merchants, all through the summer, I've been taking a great-granddaughter down cycling down to the NSC, or as we now know it, Sir Mark Cavendish Raceway.
Yep.
And there's a large number of children from some that's not 5 minutes out of nappies up to 16-year-olds. And you can get up to a couple of hundred children there on a Tuesday night.
Yep.
Which is excellent. Well, anyway, Saturday night saw the presentation, the prize presentation at the Villa Marina. And it was, well, to put it loosely, a success. The children enjoyed themselves, the parents were proud of their children, and the lady that works for this, works her heart out, Dot Tilbury, she was on the stage from 6 o'clock up until 9 o'clock, putting everything through and making sure things went smoothly. And all the helpers, St. John Ambulance, all the volunteers, etc. Now, this is a success thing that we should be shouting a bit more about, and instead of, as I say, I'm as guilty, moaning and groaning. And it's one young fella, he was just about 16, I think he was, and he'd been cycling all the time down there, and now he's just signed up for a team in the UK to go cycling in the UK. So I'm not saying he's a potential Cavendish or a Steve Jock or anything like that, but it's there. And this is things that we should be proud of and should be pushing more and more.
Well, honestly, Howard, we cannot say thank you to Dot Tilbury enough, because Dot is, well, first of all, she's indefatigable. You said she was on stage for how long?
Oh, at least 3 hours.
Oh, she's probably still there now.
probably is.
And the fact is that Dot is one of those people who lives and breathes cycling, is a complete ambassador. And as you say, Mark Cavendish and Peter Kenyuk and the rest of the guys, Johnny Bellis and people like that, put the Isle of Man on the map. You know, they put on the international map, and that's purely down to people, not just Dot, but also people around involved in Manx cycling that did that. And, you know, that's one of the areas we punch above our weight in.
Exactly, and this is what I say. On Saturday night, the children were down there. It was a bit of a riot, but they thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and they were all up on the stage, all lined up like little soldiers to get their medals and their badges and everything, and they were all as proud as punch, and getting their photographs taken, etc., and it made you proud to be Manx. And the fact that, it's been promoted internally, locally, with all the volunteers. They work their hearts out, and it was just one of those nights where I was glad I was born here on the Isle of Man. So all power to them, and not only that, but I believe they have indoor cycling on rollers, etc., up at the Braid. It's on a Thursday night, so if they feel that way inclined, Doc was saying that people can come up on the Thursday night. I don't know what the time is, you'd have to make inquiries, but this is again is for a younger generation, and it gives them something to do and something to look forward to, so well done to them all.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. Howard, thanks for calling.
Take care. Bye now.
28 minutes past 12. Well, the Tour de France has been around for years, decades, obviously. But the fact that Manx cyclists are involved in it, get a worldwide audience with it, is fantastic. I mean, and the amount of publicity the Isle of Man gets because of women. Mark Cavendish, Sir Mark, was involved in the Olympics. It all reflected on the Isle of Man. And that's one way, and palpably, getting young people involved, boys and girls involved in cycling is a good thing. So all power to their elbow, and we wish them well. Can you ask listeners, text to 496, have you seen an increase in flies? My house is getting 5 flies every day. And they're pests. Has anybody else seen an increase in flies? And Francesca says, what's the betting if an MHK or MLC owned a business or holiday let at Cregnish? The buses would continue. This is stupid. And the old, if there's nothing in it for me, then tough attitude. And silence from the southern MHKs, unreal. So shame on them, says Francesca. So I did think, didn't Michelle Hayward have something to say about it? Thanks also to 602. My 14-year-old daughter said, as we were going past the airport museum, was Manx Air a real thing or is it a fake ploy to attract visitors? I was shocked. Seems like we've lost our history in education too. Yes, it was a sad day when Manx Airlines disappeared, wasn't it? Sally's with us now. Hi, Sally.
Hello, Andy.
Go on.
I've got comments on the Isle of Man bank problem.
Okay.
I would like to echo the previous caller about having somebody in government or financial supervision commission involved in looking at their processes. As I understand it, they've got a customer due diligence team operating, checking up on the due diligence of all clients. And I am treasurer of a registered charity on the island, a small charity with only local interests and operations. And we've been through painful processes with them since January. And we've got 2 ongoing issues. We had a new committee, we needed to register a new mandate. Customer ID and data was lost when it was taken into Douglas office. We were then notified that the request to change the mandate would be brought to an end by somebody who was working in Rotherham, working for the Jersey business team. The Jersey business team deals with charities and businesses for the Isle of Man, for Guernsey, Jersey and Gibraltar. They are completely overwhelmed. I've had 1 or 2 really helpful conversations with them over the phone, but they're no longer able to respond by email, and they're also totally overwhelmed and everything takes forever. On the second issue, to do with the customer due diligence, our information that we sent in January has not been replied to, but in August, just this month, last month and this month, we've received advance notice of exit forms because they took no notice of the fact that I wrote to them and told them I was going to be away on holiday and wouldn't be able to attend to anything for a month, and they still proceeded. They didn't take any notice and still proceeded with saying that we hadn't completed and sent in the information, some of which we had sent in. Other parts of the information, we said we weren't happy sending over email because it wasn't secure enough for the personal information of our committee members. So I again would like to echo the request that somebody with the interests of the economic growth on the island and the fact that businesses and charities are just going through a very tortuous time.
Do you ever feel, Sally, like they can't be bothered, or they're not interested in your account?
I do think they don't want charities. They don't want small accounts, yes.
But I mean, you said they. So this is the Athol Street branch. They lost your paperwork.
Well, we started off being appeal branch. We're appeal charity. So we started off with there, but of course with all the branches being closed, we got moved to everything being dealt with by Athol Street, but I don't think it was ever dealt with by them. I think it was all referred to in Jersey.
And what's the Rotherham connection? What was that?
Well, that was the person who's dealing. We sent in a new mandate paperwork as a form, and over the phone, speaking to the Jersey staff, they were very helpful and sent a helpful email. But we needed to take in certified ID for our new members, passports and copy utility bills, etc. So they took them into the Athol Street branch for copying and certifying, and then sending on to Jersey. And this 2 out of 3 sets of ID was lost. We've never got to the bottom of that, and we have resubmitted it, but we've never heard, we still haven't heard yet, that they've managed to make any progress. They did warn us in the first instance that it would take 90 days to bring about a change in mandate, but this was in March.
So you got the letter in August to say they're exiting you. What date did they say they're going to exit you?
The letter in August is to do with the customer due diligence team, which incidentally, when I've rung the number 632417, which is Isle of Man number, it's answered by somebody in Northern Ireland. And 2 days ago when I rang, I said, before we started, I gave my name and I said, I would like to speak to the most senior person in your team because I'm unhappy, I've got concerns. And I was told that wasn't possible. There was no way the call could be transferred.
I mean, Sally, this is pathetic, isn't it?
Well, I spent my whole life as a financial controller in the Isle of Man banking industry, including being assistant chief accountant of the Isle of Man Bank. So I am horrified. And it is getting to the point where it is hampering our committee activities, and I'm sure it is affecting other people as well.
Have you got a plan B?
Well, we're having a committee meeting this week, so we need to, partly it's to get the information in again on hard copy this time, to get the information that we weren't happy to send over email. Lots of financial institutions, tell you not to give all your personal data over email, so we weren't happy to do that. Yeah. But some of the information we've already provided, and they are asking for it again. Copies of our constitution and the accounts. Yeah. And because they haven't managed to update the new members, because of the change in they haven't managed to update the mandate, they're asking for information for people that we haven't, no longer involved, so we've got to send the new information, but they haven't managed to put them on the mandate yet, so they must be struggling.
And as you say, this is going to be replicated by charities all over the island. So it's and the fact is,
I can't believe we're on our own.
Yeah, no, I don't think you are.
When I came back from holiday and picked up these 2 letters, And in actual fact, one letter gave us another extension to the 16th of September, which was no good because I'd already told them I wouldn't be back until the 17th. But then on the 13th of September, they sent us this advance notice of exit. So that was sent before their deadline had been, before it had expired.
And what does your charity do, Sally?
We support the school.
Okay, so
it's a very small, specific purpose. We're registered with the Charities Commission. Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, the fact is, in the fact that while we've been talking, I've had a couple of emails in from people. One just said, 768 said, I'm on the committee of a small not-profit society with Isle of Man Bank, and we've just given up the struggle to try and change a mandate. Well, we kept being told to do it online, but it needs verification, and we're going round in circles. We've all had gone through all the hoops of due diligence as well, so we're going to another bank now.
Well, that was possibly our course of action, but to be honest, I don't know whether I've got the energy to go to another bank because we do hear reports that the process is still as torturous. But we will see. We'll take it one step at a time. But I do feel for the Isle of Man, how on earth can we increase population and economic growth and activity if we've got basic stuff like this that just goes completely wrong? Appreciate it, Sally. Thanks for calling today. Okay, Andy, thank you. Good to hear from you. Bye. Keep us in touch and let us know how it goes on. It's 22 minutes now before 1. If that's something that affects you, then I'd like to hear from you. If you want to email Mannin Line at manxradio.com or call me 66 13 68 during the programme or the answer phone 682 631. Why are Port Arran commissioners taking second bins off families of 6 or more and then asking us to pay £200 to get the second bin back? Is that true? 854. Hasn't government kept some costly schools open as they serve the community, but is scrapping a bus route which will save them a pittance? It's very petty, says G. Thanks also, Paula just says, I've received a letter from Isle of Man Bank telling me after 32 years of doing my home insurance, they're cancelling it and will no longer be insuring us Jersey or Guernsey. I went in and asked why. The girl didn't know why and said that NatWest has nothing to do with Isle of Man Bank. So I'm confused. I'm actually angry, says Paula. Can you... thanks for that information. Is that true? Then Isle of Man Bank aren't doing home insurance, nor in Jersey or Guernsey. Will our net zero virtue signalling administration be carbon offsetting the Festival of Motoring to a UK company to plant trees in some far-flung place to the other side of the planet? I remember Mr. Cannon boasting the first ever offset TT. I can't seem to find out how much that one cost. I just want to bring something to your attention now, and it's something that a lady called Jenny said she'd heard on Manx Radio at the end of last week. We were talking about exploitation and modern slavery. You're looking at the radio and saying, Andy, it's the Isle of Man, it's 2024. We have no exploitation. We have no slavery on the Isle of Man. Well, the One World Centre has launched a new campaign urging us all on the Isle of Man to be vigilant about this. Wendy Shimin is the coordinator, and she says legislation for the Isle of Man will be beneficial, assessing the scale of the problem. And Jenny says we should take it very seriously on the Isle of Man. Here's Wendy Shimin.
It's interesting because we don't actually have a Modern Slavery Act. We don't have the legislation here on the Isle of Man. And that was one of the reasons that we brought the consultant over to give a talk to the general public and to Tynwald a couple of years ago. So although we know anecdotally that there have been various issues, people have been prosecuted under different legislation. So it's very hard to sort of put a number on it because we don't have that all-encompassing Modern Slavery Act legislation in place. But we are aware that there have been been all sorts of different issues here. I mean, we shouldn't be complacent. We're a small island. We all think it's safe here and it's a lovely place to be. But it doesn't mean that we're immune to things like modern slavery happening on our doorstep. There are some sort of clues, particularly where young people are concerned. If you are aware of a young person who suddenly seems to have some money, that don't know where that's come from, or they're suddenly doing a lot of travelling to places that you think is a bit odd. So there's telltale signs like that. Somebody will see someone who's perhaps vulnerable and just sees them as a good route to, oh, could you just do me this favour? And before you know it, they're doing a lot of favours. They don't really know what they're doing. They're just taking something to somebody, and before you know it, they're beholden to somebody, and then they are under the sort of caution that, well, if you tell anyone, there'll be trouble. I was at the government conference this Wednesday as well, and it was very much on people's mind there as well that, we should not be complacent. These things do happen in communities everywhere. So it definitely, and again, the poster campaign is a way of putting that in people's mind.
That's Wendy Shimin, and she knows what she's talking about, and so do the One World Centre. It may happen on the Isle of Man. You may get people who are vulnerable being lured into really modern-day slavery, doing work on behalf of other people, entirely illegitimate work. They're not on the books, they're getting paid cash, but it does happen on the Isle of Man. Also, I mean, things like arranged marriages are something that may affect our immigration on the Isle of Man. So if you know anything about this or something you'd like to share with me, then I'd like to hear from you. The issues of exploitation and modern slavery on the Isle of Man. And when I say modern slavery, forget the Nubian slaves building the Egyptian pyramids. People being coerced into working for somebody else illegitimately. Text, email, call and WhatsApp on Mannin Line.
Hey, June, I wanted to tell you about the Green Living Grant. Well, new Spectrum windows and doors are so energy efficient they qualify for the Green Living Grant, with funding available for up to 50% of the cost. I saved £5,725. Get your quote in for approval before the end of September.
Don't delay. Contact Spectrum Windows today on 817777. T's and C's apply.
Blowing a hoolie out there.
Come in for a bravig by the fire. Just stocked up at Hearth. Never been so warm.
Who's that? Hearth?
Aye, they've got kiln-dried hardwood for me log burner, Colombian coal and smokeless ovals for the open fire, kindling and firelighters all delivered. Great value too.
All goes up the chimney anyway, so I pay more. I'll be giving Hearth a call.
Check their website as well. Just order and they deliver.
For all your fire fuel needs, call Hearth on 560 577 or visit hearth.co.com.
Lost in Music is coming to Villa Marina. The original disco show will take you on an electrifying journey through the sensational 70s, featuring a world-class band and dazzling vocals that will transport you straight to the heart of disco fever. Get ready to relive timeless hits from icons like Donna Summer, Gloria Gaynor, Earth, Wind and Fire, Sister Sledge and Chic, losing yourself in the music and leaving your worries behind. Don't miss out on the feel-good show of the year coming to Villa Marina on Saturday the 5th of October. Book online at villagaiety.com, call 600 555 or in person at the Villa Marina or the Welcome Centre.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time, we're giving you the chance to win £200 to spend at 1886 Bar and Cocktail Lounge, courtesy of Tell Skips. All you have to do is listen out for the winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. And once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. So whether you're tackling a major construction project or just doing a bit of home decluttering, Tells is the go-to company for skips for both commercial and domestic use. Make this your winning weekend with Tell Skips and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And remember, Chairman of Shoprite, Deryck Nicholson, big Manx character, will be on Mannin Line after Mannin Line finishes today as we look back at a retro interview from years gone by. Isle of Man Bank Limited as a company no longer exists. It's registered as Tilber Limited, says Andy. Thank you for that. Here's a note in that just says, after 2008, we should be asking the banks to prove their integrity to us. Let's get their bona fides. On today's topics, bank closures are endemic. Alan is listening online in Wales. Said he's not Manx, but his grandmother was. On today's topics, bank closures are endemic in all rural areas and small towns. He said, my elderly mother's gone now, but if she was still here, she'd be totally dependent on me to do all this stuff online for her. So heaven help any elderly person or anybody with mobility issues doing anything in a traditional way anymore. Those in ivory towers just shut the banks to save money. Get a fat bonus, and the collateral damage to the public is a blank to them. They don't care. Banking hubs, the latest nonsense. A pop-up bank that's HSBC on a Monday and Barclays on a Tuesday. We haven't had that here. You can imagine going in on the wrong day and getting no help. Thank you for that, Alan. Good to hear from you. Listening online. More messages in now regarding the airport blue buckets under the urinals last week, says Isabel. Crikey, what else is happening there? More messages in to say, and this one says, why are the government favouring Orsted over Kroger? Orsted were invited to the government conference, but Kroger didn't give an update. It looks like the government has been greenwashed, says Robert. Well, I don't know. Do you have to be asked to go to the government conference? It would be interesting to know whether Kroger was asked to go there. And I don't know about you. Do you think we're getting all the information regarding this? I mean, there's lots of technical stuff going around about licenses and test drills and this, that and the other. It will be just nice to know, in words of one syllable, is it a goer? Interesting that Ed Miliband in the UK, remember him, has reined back on the previous promises of cheap green electricity. That will be interesting to know, wouldn't it? 29p per kilowatt hour here, what we're going to be paying in the future. And 170 says, Andy, this is banking by AI, and nobody in Jersey knows the customer base, and they don't care. I know former senior employees of the Isle of Man Bank who are appalled by what's going on at the moment. You only have to go to the Regent Street branch of Isle of Man Bank to see how bad things have become. I found them rude and disinterested, uninterested, and unkempt as well. It certainly wouldn't have happened in the days of Harley Shimmin as the manager. Times certainly change, don't they? If you've had problems with the bank, if you've been told to prove yourself, establish your bona fides, even if you've been banking with the bank for completely years, decades, more than that, if there's anything that we can get out into the open just to find out, is there a way of doing this? Can we get a better answer? Just regarding Friday, regarding the talk that we were having with the Enterprise team as well, will the horse tramway be completed before the 150th year in 2026? Says Will. Didn't get a chance to ask that, but that's one just to throw out there. 2026 is the 150th year of the horse tramway. Please ask them if anybody's mentioned about Ramsey Aquatics and Sea Life. Do they engage in people's interests on social media or business cash flow or reputations? Invest in Manx things and keep it Manx, or lose the interest of the next generation? That's from 602. Of course, if they hadn't spent 300 million on the steam packet and the landing stage, well, that would make it about nearly 400 million. Isle of Man government could have offered 20% subsidies for investment, and they would have generated hundreds of millions of pounds in inward investment, new homes, hotels, new businesses, regeneration of brownfield sites. Well, they said they were quite firm about the fact that the island infrastructure scheme, nothing's going to be paid over until the developers have actually finished their projects. And that's when, and in the meantime, he said that the amount of money that will be generated in taxes and revenues would really offset that. So we look forward to, actually, have any of them started yet? Oh, just a quick word. If you're driving around today in Braddon, a stretch of the Braddon Road is closed for about 3 weeks. From today, from the Ballafletcher roundabout to Noble's Hospital roundabout in that direction for resurfacing work. And at the same time, the Strang Road's going to be one way from the Strang roundabout towards Union Mills. Staff and the public will still be able to enter the hospital via the main drive during the first phase of work. Traffic on the existing, traffic exiting in the main drive will be diverted towards the Strang. So that's 3 weeks of sitting there.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
Do you like the arts? Whether it's this,
I've definitely been massively inspired by using the Chinese inks.
Or perhaps this. Maybe
standing stoically atop Cronknieri Lay.
Or what about...
There's lots of booing, there's lots of hissing, there's lots of shouting.
Whatever your artistic tastes, you'll find it on Spotlight, Manx Radio's weekly arts programme, carefully crafted by those creative lovelies at the Isle of Man Arts Council and presented by me, H, every Wednesday at 5:30 and available as a podcast straight after broadcast via the Manx Radio website or your favourite podcast provider. Spotlight, picking out the art of our nation.
It's perfect because I haven't written it yet.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
I write, says Barry, in the aftermath of a fairly disastrous Manx Grand Prix, an event which, despite celebrating its centenary last year, has been completely changed in the last 3 years, and many would say has been ruined. That's Barry's word. At a time when the government say they're determined to increase tourism numbers, many long-time supporters of the MGP have stopped coming. This not only reduces the atmosphere of the event, but also impacts on the hospitality trade massively. They already lost a week's business as a result of the changes. The schedule now means no free time for riders, marshals, teams, officials. Marshals are on duty in all weathers for over 12 hours every single day in many cases. There's a motorsport officer who said publicly some years ago he'd like to see the meeting discontinued. Is that true, Barry? The TT and MGP are two completely different events, each with their own particular type of supporter, although many are common to both. I accept, says Barry, the weather didn't help, but the shortened version has been the major factor in this downfall. There's not even a proper beer tent at the grandstand anymore. So it is serious. Can the Minister say how he feels about the shortening of the Manx Grand Prix since 2022, and has it been a big success? That was a message you didn't get to on Friday, but I'll put that out anyway if you've got a comment to make regarding MGP. And how does the Minister align his strong support for the vision of the new tourist strategy from the new board members of the expanding offering with government ceasing the bus service to the Sound, one of the Isle of Man's leading tourist attraction? Well, we'll be talking to Destination First and Visit Isle of Man next week. Deborah Heather is on with Ranald Caldwell. We'll be talking about that. Tomorrow, David Ashford is here, who is the Housing and Communities chair of the Communities Committee. So we'll find out exactly what's happening regarding housing. If you've got something that you'd like to bring up to Mr. Ashford, then by all means you can take your chances tomorrow. You can text, email, call and WhatsApp, or in the meantime, if you want to email, it's manninline@manxradio.com, or the answer phone, of course, 682-631. WhatsApper 841 said, really, how does the Isle of Man expect to attract new people to live here if there are problems getting a bank account? And more to the point, getting a company bank account. Surely there must be some banks on the Isle of Man that make life easy for people. Do you know one? Do you know who they are? Or have you got one of those special banks, those new banks like Swallow, wasn't it? Have you got a Revolut card, perhaps? Remember, David Ashford, MHK, tomorrow. On Friday, Chief Minister's here, Alfred Cannon, MHK. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Back tomorrow.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
In the mid-1980s, Douglas Corporation sold the town's bus station site on Lord Street to the government for 25p. The hopes were it would be developed. Well, the years came and the years went, and so did numerous schemes. It is currently, of course, a car park. Among those schemes put forward was one from Shoprite. Their chairman, Deryck Nicholson, described his proposals to David Collister.
We've taken the brief basically from the Timble plan that was adopted in 1989 that allocated the space at Douglas Bus Station for a mixed-use, suggested mixed-use development incorporating shopping, residential, and the town squares. We've looked at the architectural requirement on keeping the scheme that faces onto the harbour in a style that is complements existing structures, and they've taken regard that sometime in the future the intent is that the North Quay will be pedestrianised, and that we've allowed for easy access through our scheme for people that can park the cars and can walk and link up with the ultimate aim of being able to walk freely through into North Quay.
What size Shoprite store would you have there?
At the moment, we're looking at a store of about 12,000 feet, which is approximately half the size of our current Douglas store. We've also got a lot of flexibility within the site. We've used worked in conjunction with architects to provide there'll be other areas of retail that will be available for other users. There's large scale areas that are allocated for community use, whether it be a library, police station, or whatever. There is so much flexibility. The scheme, even though we have gone to rather grand detail on the application in principle, is to establish that we do have an intent to develop this scheme. We would like to work in partnership with government and or Douglas Corporation to give exactly what the town requires.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.